Hey Classy Golden Eagles, this is going to be part 2 of lesson number 1, and we're going to continue on with our book. Amelia spent Christmas 1917 with her sister in Toronto, Canada. There, she saw soldiers who had returned from the First World War. Years later, she wrote, "For the first time I realized what the World War meant. Instead of new uniforms and brass bands, I saw only the results of 4 years of desperate struggle. Men without arms and legs, men who were paralyzed, and men who were blind." Soon after the holiday, Amelia quit school. She went back to Toronto because became a nurse's aide in care for the war's wounded. Remember, you guys can always pause. While Amelia was in Toronto, she went to a nearby airfield and had another look at airplanes. Some years later, she explained that though I had seen one or two at county fairs before, I now saw many of them. I hung around in my spare time and absorbed all that I could. What did you guys learn about Amelia in that part of the story? What did you guys learn about Amelia in that part of the story? Go ahead and hit pause, formulate your idea. Don't forget to use the prompt, the reasons that I think this is, and then we'll continue. After the war, Amelia studied automobile engineering repair. The next year, she took courses in New York City at Columbia University and Barnard College. At first, she was preparing to study medicine. Later, she decided to do medical research. After the school year ended, Amelia went to be with her parents, who had moved to California. On Christmas Day 1920, she went to an air show, and 3 days later, she paid $1 for a 10-minute airplane ride. "As soon as I left the ground," she wrote later, "I knew I myself had to fly." In January 1921, Amelia took her first flying lesson. In July, she bought her first airplane. She paid for the lessons in airplane with money she had earned working for the Los Angeles Telephone Company and with her money given and loaned to her by her mother and sister. Flying wasn't as safe then as it is today. Airplanes were powered by small engines. Amelia had several crash landings. Once she was thrown into an open field. Another time her airplane turned over in the heavy rain, and Amelia was held in. Let me start that sentence over. Another time her airplane turned over in heavy rain, and Amelia held in by her safety belt, hung upside down. I accidentally stopped you guys early on another spot, my mistake. Oh, and here's that part. In 1924, Amelia's parents divorced. She sold her airplane and bought a yellow sports car and drove her mother east to their new home in Medford, Massachusetts. Sam Chapman, a chemical engineer, followed Amelia east. Chapman wanted Amelia to marry him, but Amelia refused to become what she called a domestic robot. At the time, she said, "I don't want to marry anybody." On weekends, Amelia had a job as a social worker in a community center in nearby Boston, teaching English to immigrant children. On weekends, she flew for sport and as a saleswoman for an airplane builder. So that last time you guys stopped, that was actually a mistake on my part, so don't worry about it. Here comes our next stop, though, after this one. In May 1927, Charles Lindbergh became the first to fly across the Atlantic Ocean. The next year, Amelia Earhart became the first woman to make the flight. She was co-passenger aboard an airplane named Friendship. In June 1928, Amelia, Bill Schultz, and Slim Gordon climbed into the Friendship. It was painted orange, so it would be easy to find in case of an accident, and was fitted with pontoons, so if they couldn't complete the trip, they could land on the ocean. Before the trip, Amelia telegraphed her mother, "Don't worry, no matter what happens, it will all have been worth the trying." While Schultz flew the plane, Amelia checked maps and kept a record of their speed and their altitude. She also looked out the window at the clouds and described them as marvelous shapes in white. She wrote later, gulping beauty. On June 18, 1928, after 20 hours and 40 minutes in the air, the plane landed in the water in the harbor of Burleyport, Wales, which is near England. Amelia described the flight as a grand experience, but since she didn't pilot the plane, she said she felt like baggage. I'm going to go ahead and pause you there, and I want you to discuss, what did you learn about Amelia in that part of the story that you just heard? What did you learn about Amelia in that part of the story that you just heard? Go ahead, and the next video, we'll just start up reading the next part.